Hey there, coaches. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play In School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. Today's episode is important on many levels. First, I officially endorse my guest, Jeff Schaefer, for president. Once you hear his campaign platform, there's no way you won't write him in as your vote too. Secondly, and way more importantly, we talk about the work he's been doing along with a bunch of other great guys within the African American community through the sport of baseball. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball Talk. All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Hey, we got a return guest today. This is a special election special episode of Travel Ball Talk. I wanted to make it quite clear who I'm endorsing, and he goes by the name of Jeff Schaefer. Before Jeff, welcome to the show. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm heavy on the campaign trail, but I'm doing well. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're gonna get right into your platform here. You people at home listening to this, we're right in the midst of a heated campaign year, and Schaefer needs your help. If you can go out and maybe make a donation, we'll get into where you send that in a little bit. But your platform is strong. I'm looking at it here on the internet, and I'm going to go through it point by point. And I believe our baseball fans at home will love this. Point number one, we're going to drain. And when I say we, I just jumped in as like your chief of staff, basically.
My campaign manager.
Just because I love this so much. Okay, so Jeff's latest tweet today. We're recording this, by the way, on November 2nd, day before Election Day here, 2020, in the States. So make baseball great again. If elected on November 3rd, I will immediately, point number one, drain the corrupt NCAA swamp. I'm clapping. I'm giving you a slow clap for that one. Unbelievable. Right. Lift the D1 dead period, allowing D1 baseball coaches to get back on the recruiting trail. You just got about 1,000 more votes right there from D1 coaches. Point number three, place sanctions on MLB and use the cabbage to pay for a third assistant coach. Point number four, fire MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred. You're fired, you would tell him. Point number five, increase JUCO and community college baseball programs across the country by hundreds, creating more opportunity for players after high school. Beautiful. And we're gonna talk about opportunity in once we get to the more serious part of this conversation. Next point, make sure every kid in the country has a baseball glove and a baseball in it. A baseball glove and a baseball in it. This is UBI, basically. This is Universal Baseball Income sort of program. The UBI of baseball gear. Put a glove and ball in every kid's hand. Unbelievable. Great platform. Next point. Make sure those who are underserved and boxed out of our game because of money become served. That's an unbelievable platform, Schaefer. I appreciate you putting that down on paper, and you officially have my endorsement. And I'm gonna try to help you get across the finish line here in the next day.
Yeah, we got 24 hours to push this agenda, so get to work with.
So you're a late addition to the ticket, but you're gonna get a lot of votes.
I woke up this morning and declared myself a presidential candidate. So
a
little bit late, but I'm in.
I'm gonna hustle my tail off and get this episode up so that you can be written in tomorrow. You might miss the East Coast. You might miss the East Coast because the listeners will be getting to this a little late if they've put their vote in. And, a bunch of people already voted early. But I'm going to try and get this up at least in time for the West Coast voters to listen and write you in. Listen, there's on a serious note, there's a lot of things in there. And I don't want to go point by point to get I think a lot of these are pretty obvious. But let's talk about a couple here that make sure every kid in the country has a baseball glove. That's unbelievable. What makes you say something like that?
Our game has become it's become for the privileged, and it's not a privilege any longer to play the game. And I just feel like, if there was a glove and a ball in every single house, a father and a son, or a mother and a son, or a mother and a daughter would find a little bit more time. I mean, some of the greatest conversations I ever had with my family members was playing catch. Life was different back then when I was growing up because, that's all we could do. We couldn't go sit on a computer or, play these video games. We jumped in the street or we jumped in the front yard and we just threw the baseball for hours and hours and hours or threw it off a wall. You had to, I guess it would say self-entertain yourself. So I can't tell you how many ground balls I took off a brick wall,
yep.
And how many games I won as a kid because I was fielding a play and making a play. And so that to me it's important. I think it's America. I think it really is our national pastime, even though people want to claim football is. I mean, I think football has proven that through everything that's going on politically that. It's not really our national pastime, and baseball is, and I think it always will be.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think right on. I'm on board with all those things you just said. It's to just go out there and play catch, and you don't have someone to play catch with. You go find the brick wall.
I want to interject one thing about that too. So a few years back, probably 2.5 years back, I had a stroke. And a brain stroke, and I was knocked out for 6 months. Done. The first things that I did when I was up and moving around was go in my backyard with my son and play catch, and it was unbelievable. I mean, I had tears in my eyes. I can tear up right now thinking about it because you're sitting there thinking, you take certain things for granted, and you forget what is kind of the core of who you are. And what's developed you, and that was an amazing day. My wife has pictures of it, and it's one of my favorite pictures because it's just me catching a ball.
Mm-hmm.
But the picture doesn't say what it says. It doesn't say to everybody else what it says to me or my family.
Yeah, this is probably a good spot for listeners who maybe don't go all the way back with me to the beginning of Travel Ball Talk. Schaefer was one of the first guests. I think you were somewhere within the first 5 or 10 guests we had on the show. So if you want to go to playinschool.com/Schaefer, you're going to find that conversation. And in that conversation, he told the story about, what happened to him 2.5 years ago. And it was, it's quite the story, We don't need to take up too much time about it today, but you can go back and listen and on that call we spent a lot of time. Golly, I think we were laying the groundwork for your campaign even back then. We spent a lot of time talking about your charitable foundations, right? We talked about your black tie event where you're the big fundraiser. That you're raising money, and the You Deserve a Chance Foundation. And today I want to, you can talk about what those things are, but that's going to lead us right into more specifically the Knothole, which you touched on briefly on our first conversation, which was already, it was probably 18 months ago. But let's tell people kind of the high level. You can tell them what You Deserve a Chance is and how that drilled down to what the Knothole is. Do you call it Knothole? Is it foundation or?
It's Knothole Foundation.
And
Knothole Foundation.
And not only is it a foundation, but it's also a place. It's a thing. It's a facility. It's a field. It's a complex. Whatever you want to call it. So, give us start high level 30,000 foot view with You Deserve a Chance, and then begin to kind of zoom in for us, because it's going to be a good refresher for me, but also for people who don't know you or don't know what you've been up to down there in the Charlotte area.
So when I got out of professional baseball, I went into some other businesses and had some successes, but just was never really happy. Jumped into the lessons business. Had a buddy that had a small facility, so I went in. I was just killing time, and I'll do some lessons here and get back in the game and see what's happening. And when I was in there, I started to kind of become more aware of the surroundings of not just what's happening in the building in terms of lessons and instruction, but these tournaments and things that were going on, which was not even close to what my world was growing up. We played locally, we played in our rec league, I played with the same guys in Little League that I played in high school. You were a team from the time you got on we played in the street and got into rec ball, and then went all the way through junior high school and on to, middle school, and then on to high school. So, I'm looking at the dynamics and the landscape of all this stuff, and I'm like, this is amazing. It's just wild how many, these teams are coming together that don't have players from their same community. And then I started to dig in a little bit deeper and found out, like, it cost that much to play, because I never remembered my family paying anything. Everything was always sponsored. I played for Dew Electric and Phantom Miller's Pharmacy and all these different local businesses. Yep. They supported our teams, bought our uniforms. And, dads took care of the field and did all that other stuff. Now I'm watching this craziness going on. And the competition between tournament organizations and teams and players getting, people calling players and, trying to take this kid from that team and that team. I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. So in this process, I'm watching and I'm saying there's something missing here, and I couldn't really put my finger on it until I realized that, the underserved player, the other underserved family, and I say underserved family, so maybe not financially secure enough to put, they may have two or three kids into a travel baseball program and allow them to go ahead and compete and maybe down the road create opportunity for them, at the next level. Hopefully college would be the primary, and then, if good enough somewhere down the road, pro ball. So things were getting boxed out. And then I also started to see, like, we're missing some color in this game too. There's something kind of, odd going here, because when I came up, and especially when I got into pro ball, the percentage of African Americans and Latinos and, players of a different race and color, were in my locker room. And it wasn't like, this is predominantly white and there's one black dude and one Chinese guy and whatever. It was, it was a mixture. And, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So then I started to dig in even deeper and found out that, the cost of the game had just gone through the roof. And I use this terminology, and it's a phrase that's out there, and I stole it from somebody, but it's, it started to become a game for the privileged and no longer a privilege to play the game. So if you didn't have the resources, you could not participate, or you couldn't participate in the places that may create the greatest opportunity for you. And we know the game creates many different opportunities, not just as a player, but, to growth as an individual and understanding what teamwork, what a team is, and understanding how to, work ethics are. So, we started You Deserve a Chance Foundation through our organization, which we had with CBC, because I couldn't personally tell a kid he couldn't play in our organization because he couldn't afford it. And we didn't set the landscape financially. It was already laid, when I got back into the game at this level. So, if you're going to compete, you had to, have a facility, have an organization, travel, pay coaches, all that other stuff. So, kids would come try out, and then you lay out the financial, the financial piece to them, and you just see it on their face. It's just like, God, I want to do this, but I just can't. And, so you lose them. And Sue Zeich, who worked very close with me and has been with me for 15 years now, we sat down and we started to talk and say, okay, how do we assist these kids? And not just the kids in CBC, but the kids that were in other organizations. So we came up with You Deserve a Chance Foundation. Just threw some flyers out there, tried to get a little bit of money here and there. We'd support a kid, and so on and so forth. And interesting enough, one of the first kids that we ever provided a UDACF scholarship to play inside our organization was LJ Newsom from Chapacon, Maryland. Just got to the big leagues this year.
Wow.
So very, very, very cool. And the person that gave me the money to support him never wanted any attention whatsoever. And that's the type of people that we run into. Just here's the money, put it in the foundation, do the right thing with it. So we went ahead and we started to cultivate it a little bit more, and we found other avenues through golf tournaments. our home plate gala, which is a big black tie affair, which seats about 350 people. We give a Spirit of the Game award away every year. We've had some tremendous recipients of that. We've had Tom Walter, head coach of Wake Forest. We've had Chris Singleton, whose mom was the pastor of the Charleston Church Massacre, that ended up went to Charleston Southern and then drafted by the Cubs. We've had Landon Powell and his wife Allison, who Landon caught the perfect game, Dallas Braden, but also had some tragedy in his family and illness. But he's the head coach now in North Greenville and doing amazing things for kids there. We had Mike Schilt, who is now the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, and Mike was the clubhouse kid when I first got to Charlotte here in 1982. And we have been as thick as blood ever since. And then the last one we had, because we had to shut down, we couldn't do it this year because of COVID, was Jack Leggett. You know, this legendary coach at Clemson and USA Baseball. And that's a big. That I wanted to off on that one, but that's a big fundraiser for us. We take those monies and we do things. We've done everything from, you know, we've assisted players to be in uniform. We've assisted families with they didn't have enough for a heating bill in the winter. Or they didn't have enough for the kid to get books at school. Or we actually helped an old teammate's family bury a child that had an addiction, and they had burnt all their family resources and didn't have enough to give their son a proper burial. So we assisted there. So it's just different things like that. And that's, I mean, we're there for anything and everything. So to kind of fast forward it, because I took a long time to kind of talk about UDACF. If people want to know, that's udacf.org. That's our foundation, You Deserve a Chance Foundation. Got up with Morris Madden, Carolina Metro Reds, which is the MLB RBI program here in Charlotte. Morris, African-American dude, me, a skinny white guy from this side of town. Both had the same heart and the same idea to do the right thing for kids and help the underserved. And so we just started to explore ideas like, how do we do better at what we're doing? We're touching some lives, but how do we touch, instead of 5 a year, how do we touch 105 a year? Morris had been working out on this facility that had existed since 1952 in the west side of Charlotte, right by the airport, called the Optimist Club, West Neck Optimist Club. It was all grown over. It was a mess. Morris did the best he could to have one field operational so he could run his program out there. And through his connection, we approached the Optimist Club and asked them if they would be interested in selling the original complex, which was 9 acres, to us. And they, believe it or not, they agreed. And I can't even tell you what a deal they gave us, because there's nobody in the country would even believe that we bought the land for what we did. But there was a stipulation to it that when we bought it from them, we played baseball there for the next 25 years.
Oh, wow.
The Optimist Club, these people were 80s and 90s. They were done. They're old dairy farmers that grew up on that side of town that, obviously the dynamics changed. The community changed from white farmers to predominantly African-American and Latino. The interest in the game had changed as far as players. So the place was run down, and we got it for a song and dance. Bought a house that was adjacent to it. We plowed that over, and we built Knothole Foundation's Tuckasegee Dream Fields in Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's servicing, that we're servicing the community. We're also servicing the travel showcase world as well, because even though you have nonprofit and all that other stuff, you still have to sustain. You've got to pay for grounds crew, dirt. We're building an indoor training facility there that'll be finished in December. We have to put seating down, third field to be built. So quite a bit going on, a lot of moving parts right now. MLB was critical in us launching this as well, because they gave us a $400,000 contribution, which was the largest contribution they've ever given anybody, to build the first field, and we did. And then other donors started to jump on, and the vision is big. We have an academic center that we built inside our building, and we're giving we're teaching kids from grades 1 to 5 to read right now. That's the beginning of our program. So, like I said, you know, when you and I get on the phone, Rich, we just talk and talk and talk. When you and I can sit down on a bar stool and probably talk for 2 days. So, you know, that's the 30,000 feet view of our foundations.
Thanks for giving us that flyover. Now we'll start zooming in on some different stuff here. Let's start with baseball. Let's start with baseball a little bit. You know, think back to March and April. I think everybody in our industry was on pins and needles. Nobody knew exactly. And if you're listening to this in 2025, I'll give you a quick refresher. In March of 2020, basically everything shut down. Because of COVID, and the industry was on pins and needles. And as we approached summer, and May turned to June, baseball started happening again. But most of the events that that we were used to having for the last several years took place at many of them took place at colleges, and they supplemented with local high school fields, and all of those were shut down. I mean, probably 99% of those fields were shut down, which created a pretty unique opportunity for people that had private facilities. So, when did you have your first? When did Knothole and Tuckasegee Dream Field have its first event ever? Were you open last fall, or did you open?
No, we did. We weren't open last fall. We opened up this spring, and everything was complete. The fields were done. We finished the first field in October of last year, and we did some charity events in terms of fundraisers. We did a celebrity softball tournament with a veterans group, and then we just did a celebrity tournament with local TV and politicians and things like that, just to kind of bring some attention to get some media coverage
That's
to
a pretty good idea, actually.
what our project was, because to this day, we're still in fundraising mode. We've raised $5 million of the $7 million, so we're chasing another $2 million.
Okay.
So we have to continuously do things like that. We're putting on many different hats.
So in the spring, one of your tenant, if you will, is a local university. I'm guessing maybe they played a couple of their home games there to start the year.
They
tell us who that is, and tell us about.
Well, first of all, yeah. Queen's University. Queen's University is a Division II program in Charlotte, North Carolina. Pretty prestigious academic institution right here in the middle of the city, and a lot of money people contribute to the program. Hugh McCall's, Levine's. I mean, I can go on. The list is it's amazing. How they're funded. So at the current time, prior to us building the Tuck. Jack McDowell, former Cy Young Award winner, was the head coach there. Jack's recently resigned. Spend more time with his family and do other things. But he had no field. And it's interesting with Queens is that they don't own any athletic facility at all other than the Levine Center on campus, which is swimming, wrestling, and basketball. That's it. But they have almost 30 sports. Their registration, their administration has a program where it's like 53% athletes on campus. So pretty impressive when it comes to that. But not to own any facilities was their design. So we approached them and told them this is what our plans were, and they kind of looked at us sideways and said you'll never pull this off. And they were telling that to the wrong group of people, myself, Jack McDowell, Al Daspin, several other guys that are involved. And, we got after it, we put our nose to the grindstone and we got this complex built. And part of it, once it was built, then we had a lease. We set up a lease with Queen's University, and they lease our baseball field during their season and our smaller field, which is youth baseball and softball size field. So we have a pretty cool tenant. We're in in an area that there are 10 Title I schools within 3 miles of us, and we have the nicest baseball, softball facility you have seen in a long time.
So I'm assuming that in February or March, when their season opened up, they probably played some home games, or was their season cut short before they ever even stepped on the field?
Yeah, it really didn't even get going. You know, when it was, Queens was probably one of the first universities just to pull the plug on everything.
So they shut it down. Then
February, yeah.
So everybody,
and they just got a brand new head coach.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So literally no action on this field, and everybody's on pins and needles. March, April turns to May. Things are starting to loosen up depending on what part of the country you're in. Mm-hmm. Luckily, you guys are further south, and now all of a sudden we're heading into, the traditional summer circuit, and you guys just opened it right back up and got going. How'd that go? And
it's interesting on two sides. One, we run an organization called Carolinas Baseball Center, which is cbcbaseball.net is our website. And so I have, usually in the spring, our younger teams, our 10s, 11s, and 12s, will play in the spring. And then so our staff could be out there. We can coach with them. We can help them. We can show up at different games, get to know all the players and the families. We only have one team per age group. So, it's part of our business model. It's part of our developmental structure to be able to take all of our coaches and put them with every single team at different times. So everybody knows every kid and every family in our organization. So they usually jump out in the spring. Well, with COVID going on and the fields, being finished, and we're just kind of like, we're kind of like tentative, like, what do we do, and then things started to loosen up. We got from phase 1 to phase 2, and then we got then we got into phase 3. So being private, we didn't have the restrictions of a school or a Parks and Rec. Just saying, forget it. Nobody can use our facilities, nothing going on. So we're sitting there with, a brand new complex. I mean, a beautiful complex, two fields, one the smaller field, one the 60-90. And, we said, okay, let's go. Let's open up and let's do what we have to do. The biggest concern wasn't so much, us opening up. It's just, how were we going to control the social distancing? What were the protocols? We had to put signs in the dugout. We had to make sure hand sanitizer in the dugout. We had to make sure umpires were wearing masks. Our grounds crew was wearing masks. Parents, when they were sitting there watching, families could sit together, but they had to distance themselves. So you couldn't have tent next to tent next to tent, And I think we did a good job, and I think the families and everybody was extremely respectful of the rules that we put forward, because they wanted to see their kids play baseball. We had missed, several months, and everybody was concerned that, we weren't going to see baseball at all. That 2020 was just going to be a complete bust. But it worked out. So, if there is a silver lining to all this, this epidemic, it has worked well for some people, in terms of, we didn't miss a beat. We got it going, and every weekend we were playing baseball. Our organization was practicing during the week. Morris Madden and the RBI program, we were able to set up a league that they were playing in. So, in terms of that, there was a lot of normalcy to our baseball world down here compared to a lot of other people.
That word just made lightning bolts go off in my head, normalcy. And that's part of when, you were talking about earlier how baseball is, it's America's pastime. It's part of America. We need to continue to grow the sport, and a big reason for that, it's normalcy. It's just, let's get back to our regular normal life. Not to go off on a tangent, but I know people whose kids haven't been to a playground yet, whose kids aren't in school yet. And talk about, that's the complete opposite of normalcy, and I can't imagine what that's doing to, the mental well-being of the kid or the parents, and it's sad. So by opening your doors, even if it's, spread apart 10 feet and only for a couple hours a day, at least you provided some normalcy for some families down there. So, So that's tremendous. That's tremendous. I want to hear more about your buddy. What's his name? Mars? Is that what you were saying? Is it
Morris Madden?
More?
Yep.
Wait, I can't. Is it Morris?
Yeah, Morris.
Got it.
That's my New York accent.
I know, man. I know that
Yeah.
we got the Queens. Is it Queens accent I'm picking up?
No, Eastern Long Island.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So I want to hear more about some of the things he was doing out there this summer with the RBI crew from right there in Charlotte.
Morris is a human being with a huge heart and genuinely a love for his race and kids. And he's put himself out on the line. He's put his own wallet on the line. He's always done the right thing. He's been run over by some selfish baseball people in the city, which we know are out there across the board. We competed against each other at the AAA level. We never competed against each other in the big leagues because he was National League with Pirates and the Reds, and my whole career was American League. But in AAA, we competed against each other, and so we knew each other. But we didn't do a whole bunch at all, in all the years that we were in Charlotte. And I just kept hearing, Morris's little CMR group, and they had some decent athletes that would jump ship on them because somebody would see a good athlete over there and go pluck them and just say you need a better opportunity or don't belong there or so on. So Morris and I we connected. Obviously we had a lot of mutual friends because we're in the baseball community, and I went over and and sat with Morris and watched his program, and it was limping, and he was putting every ounce of everything he had, him and his wife Sandra, into trying to make this RBI program something special. And on top of it, and I have no issues even being a former major league player, calling out MLB. A lot of times what MLB does as far as outside of the actual MLB season and World Series and playoffs, all that stuff, they're a smoke and mirrors group. They're almost political. They want to show up and say, look how pretty we are, and we're going to do this thing, and like this play ball initiative that they have, and then they're going to pack up and they're going to be gone, right? So we'll have 200 underserved kids out there falling in love with the game on one day, and then it's just over. Poof, gone. So, Morris wasn't that guy. Morris, he, his heart and soul was into taking care of, generally, you hear the cliche, if I could only just make it better for one person, or if I can do something for one person, or if I could leave this earth knowing I made a difference in one person's life. That was Morris, because his numbers weren't great, and he was at it all the time. I didn't have the same issues to deal with in terms of race, numbers and things like that, but my heart was in the same place. Like I love this game. I love the game of baseball. It's been so good to me. Rich, you and I have had this. You and I met through baseball. I have, I have thousands of numbers in my phone, and I would say 95% to 98% of them are all because of baseball in my life, one way or another. So the game is great, and I want the game to be healthy. And in my mind, when I was a player, the game was the healthiest when there were more African American players involved in the game. And I'm not saying, hey, I'm this great, race relation guru, and I'm trying to change. Listen, I get it. We're in tough times, and I'm far from a racist. I think I'm almost opposite of that. I'm more in tune to what's going on in that community because I'm involved in it. Even as a white dude, I'm involved with it. But I want the game to be the healthiest it could be. I want the best players in the world to be out there. And, I played with Griffey Jr. I played with Harold Reynolds. I played with, guys like Alvin Davis, Kevin Mitchell, Harold Baines. I go down the list. These are, Hall of Fame guys. Latinos like Edgar Martinez and Ozzie Guillen. And, so, the game, when it has that right diversity level and the African-American player has to be a big part of that, was the greatest. It was the best of the best in the game. And So Morris has been there. He's been trying to push on it, and I've just, I hope that I can be somebody that's kind of behind the scenes, kind of nudging along with him.
Listen, one of your points when we opened up this show, kind of kidding around about your election platform, was to, get Rob Manfred out of there. And it's honestly, it's not just him, it's his predecessors as well. It's the guys he followed in that position. Major League Baseball has a long reputation for a lack of effort and a lack of success with the RBI program specifically.
Yep.
It's kind of like it's like a box that they check. Or like it's like somebody they want to put it on their resume, just say they did it.
That's exactly what it is. You nailed it. Yep.
But it goes way. I think MLB's failures go way beyond that. But when you zero in on this one topic, you just scratch your head and you go, you guys are missing opportunities to bring. You're looking for the best players, and if you lose the best player before they even get a chance to become the best player, then you got no shot at it.
Yeah. So here's and you Rich, you're dead on it, right? So they want to promote themselves constantly, right? I mean, it's big business. It's like big pharma, right? These guys are all about the money, man. No doubt about it, right? And so you can't take these superstars that are and drop them into an environment where you're trying to encourage kids to stay in the game and understand what the game is all about and and the lessons of the game, because they come in and they hit and run. And I don't blame them, right? I mean, that's there's so much money out there that these guys don't have to do anything. But if you go down and you start to look deeper into the guys that are making a difference in the game, right? It's guys that have stayed in it, like myself, and I'm proud of the fact that I've stayed at the youth level. I've had opportunities to go back to pro ball and do things, and I just fall in love with the kids in the game, and I don't want to go down that road. But you go down and you look at, and I'm going to name a couple of African American guys first, okay? Marquise Grissom, Morris Madden, Carl Nichols. There's several. Antonio Grissom, Marquise's brother, is a big part of all this program. Donald Bennett, that nobody even knows who Donald Bennett is.
I know who Donald Bennett is.
You know Donald Bennett.
I know
right?
Donald very well.
He was actually speaking about you. He was here at the HBCU, and he brought up playing school and the great job that you did, and that would. Your program, the things that you've been doing and grinding for years, Rich, and that's one of the things that I've always been impressed with you, and I think that's why we're good friends. Is that you have just grinded through this thing when everybody was just it was not an easy process for you, and I watched it. And listen, back to
Donald though. Back to Donald.
No, first I don't think anybody could drive around in a car that had playing school on it like you did.
I took it off. Hey, the logos are off the car. Back to Donald though. Back to Donald.
Okay. So, but there's people out there like that. And then there's other guys out here, that, are doing the right thing, that it's not self-serving. Listen, I want to go on the field and I want to compete with the best athletes against the best teams that I possibly can, right? But at the end of the day, this isn't about me. This is just about the opportunity that I've had as a player to go ahead and take what I've gained and bring it back, and hopefully help kids out. But MLB needs to dive down. They need to really drill down into, who's out there. Marvin Freeman, a great career, all over social media, and doing the right things. Jeffrey Hackman Leonard out in I think he's in California, he might be in Arizona, but I see him all over social media. So they got to go to this group of people and say, how do we make this difference? How do we help this process? Because they can't do it from the ivory tower. They can't do it. They think they know what they're doing, and they think they can sprinkle a little bit here and there and make it happen. You can't, because you cannot hit and run on these kids because they don't trust you to begin with, right? Because the whole lives they've had that. People have come in, whether it's parent, whether it's uncle, whether it's school teacher, whether it's whatever, because they're underserved, that somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm here for you, and then all of a sudden, oh, I love what you're doing. You know, I want to be a part of this. And then they're gone, and the kid has no direction whatsoever.
Yeah.
So you got to stay with these. You got to stay with these kids, and that's what Morris has done. And I see it, man, and it's amazing. And so I'm thrilled that we were able to come together. You know, Morris had the connection. We had the financial network to go ahead and kind of drill this thing upward, and get it done. And now those kids in that community, that never thought, you know, they could have something like a Queens University playing in their neighborhood, you know, one of the nicest facilities in their neighborhood, opportunities for career. We have you know, you were talking about production earlier, and we talked about streaming. Well, we're going to bring kids in to do that.
Yeah.
That's, you know, so listen, we can go on and on and on. There's so many different things, but, you know, to go back to Morris and that group in MLB is going to continue to miss the mark if they do not drill down and get to the people that are in the grassroots, because this is a grassroots movement. This is not, you know, a sprinkle something over the top and it's going to grow.
And that's just it. It's there's definitely a lot of nuance to the conversation about growing the sport within the African American community, but I think that's almost a short-sighted statement, because it's really about, you got to grow the excitement for the sport, period, end of sentence. And MLB it's almost like, if you look over what they've been doing over the last couple of years, it's almost like they're intentionally trying to destroy enthusiasm for the sport instead of grow enthusiasm for the sport. If you grow enthusiasm for the sport across the board, well, then guess what? You're gonna pull excitement amongst the African American community as well. You know, because it's not.
So the issues aren't the excitement for the sport with the African community. You know, I mean, they're like, you know, negate what you're saying, because parts of what you're saying are very true. Parts are very true. The piece that's difficult for the African American community is not just the financial part of it, but it's the transportation part of it.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to create opportunities, and you got to go down to Perfect Game in Atlanta, or, you know, World Wood Bat, you know, or a PBR event, you know, somewhere around the country, and because that's where all the recruiters are going to be, and that's where the best of the best are going to be, and you can't afford to spend 6 nights in a hotel, and you can't afford to travel to be there, you have no chance.
Yeah.
You have no chance. So listen, we had 125 kids at an HBCU event. 125 kids. We had to turn people away this past weekend.
Incredible.
It was amazing. We had 20 college coaches there, predominantly HBCU coaches. We had some traditional universities like the Queens, the Queens, the Belmont Abbeys, the Anderson Universities, you know, in there. And then we had well over 100 coaches viewing through our streaming on there. So, and we kept it at a minimal. I mean, you know, these showcases, Rich, you've seen it, man. These showcases are $350, $400. If you're a showball or a head first, you're almost $1,000 a pop. Who the hell can afford that?
Right.
Right. The privileged can.
Yeah.
Not somebody from the west side of Charlotte. They can't afford to do that.
You know.
So I get fired up and I get pissed off over it, because it's just you know.
Where I was
this is one of those things we know better.
Where I was heading with the enthusiasm comment is, there are other alternatives that some kids get more enthusiastic about. And right now, baseball's boring to a lot of people, right? So you don't have – so eliminate money for a second, because I know a third world country not terribly far away from here that produces baseball players at an alarming rate, at record rates, right? You go down to the DR, these people are as poor as people get. You know, and luckily
we only see the best of the best.
Yeah, of course. Luckily for MLB, those kids, you know, are phenoms kind of right out of the womb, and so it's not about money or lack of money. Those kids don't want to play basketball. When was the last time you heard of a Dominican Republican basketball or football player?
No way off the island. There's no way off the island playing basketball.
They want to play baseball.
Go get these. There's these criminals down there that go and find the better talent, and they bring these kids away from. They take these kids away from their families, and they put them in these crappy facilities and bad living experiences, and they work you through it, right? And as soon as you are
100%.
not considered a prospect, boom, you dump back into the sugar cane.
And but again, if the Buscones thought that they could do that, hey, we're going to be Buscones for the NFL. They would be doing it. If they thought they could make money being an NBA Buscone down in the DR, they would be doing it. But they do it for baseball, and baseball's the love and passion down there. And here, stateside, man, we've got there. I'm a baseball guy, but listen, basketball and football opportunities are everywhere.
You don't go anywhere. That's my point.
Yeah.
You go to the court and you play, or a local AAU.
Exactly.
You don't talk about Biscones.
Yeah.
AAU is full of Biscones.
Oh yeah.
AAU basketball, right? So, but football is primarily high school. You train. You can go to a combine camp here and there.
Yeah.
You don't have to go anywhere. Basketball, AAU is Nike's picking up everything for everybody. It's crazy. So, but baseball doesn't have that luxury. So no, it doesn't happen that way for these kids in the underserved community here. You have to have Morris Madden. You have to have Marvin Freeman. You have to have Carl Nichols. You got to have guys that are down in the dirt with these kids that can help get them out. But you need resources and you need help.
Yeah. Now we, this show is called Travel Ball Talk, and those of us in the travel ball community at the older age groups, we definitely have this sort of focus on moving kids along to the next level, which is for most kids is going to be playing in college. And that's a tremendous thing. It's a great life experience for 99.99% of them. That's where it ends. That's where it comes to a close. And for most kids, it's going to end at high school, and that's okay too. But the reality is, baseball gives so much more than just the wins and losses on the field, right? It's about the camaraderie, learning how to be a teammate. In baseball, you learn how to deal with failure, don't you? Like nobody's business. And there's so much more to it. And so I kind of want to talk to you about these, some of the non-baseball stuff that I think sometimes we take for granted, but are really, really important. That is sort of a big part of providing these opportunities. These kids, giving them the chance to play baseball, whether they go play pro or college or even make it to high school. Let's talk about getting these kids in uniform and getting them on the field.
Listen, like you said, the majority of these kids are not going to go play beyond high school. But what we're trying to do in the game is retention. And not only retention, the game is great, yes, because the players are great, and we have a tremendous sport. It provides entertainment. But the truth of the matter is, more people we want. Retention and greatness in the game comes through the fans as well. Nothing happens without the fans, right? So the experience has to be good at the youth level. So these kids become fans that don't get there. They're always in love with their team. They're always a Yankee fan or a Braves fan or whatever, or, a fan of a player. Because the other part of it is, if history repeats itself, and dads and sons, are tight, then dad is going to the ballpark with his kid. Either he's going to coach him or drop him off. And, it's amazing, how, the inner juices of the game come back on some of these parents sometimes. Not always positive, but they jump out, but they're back involved in the game. They're fans and they're pulling for their kids. And so, that's the retention piece is not just how do we make big leaguers. I'm not trying to make big leaguers, man. I'm trying to just give kids opportunities for better ways of life. So you talk about the intangibles. Greatest self-esteem destroying sport in the world, right? This game will crush you.
Yeah.
It will crush. I don't care how good you are. It will put you through a slump. It'll give you the worst night of your life. It'll embarrass you, and then on the other side, you come back the next day and, you have the greatest game ever. And, you're back in it, but you learned a lesson. You the high and the low. You play every single day. You get up every day. You go to work, right? You got to go do your job. You got to provide for your family. Baseball is an everyday thing, and it's a game for 162 straight games and maybe into the playoffs. Add in spring training, 9 months out of the year, it's a grind. You're at it. So yeah, there are a lot of lessons involved in this game that that you don't even realize are happening until you're 10 years down the road playing showcase youth travel baseball, and then another 4 years in college, and if you're lucky, then all of a sudden you turn around and you're adapting to issues in your life or situations in your life that you already have the foundation. You don't even know why. It's because you were involved in this game.
One of the things I think about as a possibility is some of these kids who are coming through with Morris's crew with the RBI program, who are getting the teed up over there at Tuckasegee Dream Field. What would they be doing if they weren't hanging with him and playing baseball over there?
Scary to think. I mean, Morris and I go into there's a corridor of schools right there. There's a high school, a middle school, elementary school, and Morris and I go in there and we speak to these kids, once a month, whatever. And then, career days, we talk about STEM, we talk about, engineering and science and spin rates and different things like that to kind of interest them, to keep them going. But, you can look out into these group of kids and you can tell that kid hasn't eaten. You know what? That kid hasn't had a shower. That kid, that kid's clothes, that's the same clothes that he had on the other day. It's heartbreaking. So, I don't know where, it can't be good. It can't be good. The odds of those kids busting through that situation is just not, it's not strong. Parents could be drug addicts. I mean, there's just a lot of issues in that community that I'm not oblivious to, but you know what? It's almost like, well, that's West Charlotte. I live down here in the South Side. I live in South Carolina in PK, in a beautiful community that, it's a really nice community. Just put it that way. Predominantly white, right? And then I drive up into that community, and I go to work, and I just sometimes I can't wrap my head around how difficult it could be.
There's a saying that kind of comes to mind, something about the idle hands or the devil's tools or something about that, where it's just just keeping these kids busy for a few hours, such a positive thing. It's such a positive
and putting them
thing.
around other people and have a good mentors. I mean, Marshall Madden's group is loaded with good mentors, and they know some of these kids won't even. I mean, sometimes it's like, what is this kid doing on the field? That's the selfish baseball part of us. We're looking at like, man, dude, cut that kid. But you don't cut that kid. You keep that kid.
Yeah,
you keep that kid. And so I've learned a lot. I mean, we funny say, you never stop learning in baseball. Well, I never stopped learning life lessons, and this past couple of years being around Morris and his group is really, it's eye opening. And another piece, Richard, that really frustrates me is, because I see this, right, and I see these kids that just want to love the game and they want somebody to love them and to be around and help them and nurture them, and the game is doing that for us. We're fortunate to have it. But I go out and I compete against all these guys that want to poach players, that want to list umpteen national championships or a weekend World Series or, I mean, it's just, I mean, I played against a group this weekend. It just would have blown you away how this guy just acted. And I'm like, dude, oh my God. I mean, it's, when it comes down to it, in the end, it's not wins and losses, not your batting average, not anything else. It's about the people. It is about the people.
Yeah.
And, and that's the greatest piece. I can't even, my daughter texted me this morning joking that one of her nurse friends out in Arizona that she's working with, wherever she's at, wants me to get an autograph from Randy Johnson. And if I get him an autograph from Randy Johnson, he'll ask for my autograph. Who's that? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But, just, people in general and the connections to the game and all that other stuff. Those are the things I remember. And those are things that, I want to hold on to.
Yeah. I want to, before we get away from this, there's if you peruse the internet too much, you hear some people talk about, toxic masculinity. What a kind of a joke, I think.
Exactly.
When the reality is that in the inner city, I live in the city. I live in the city of Richmond. I'm within the city lines where I am, and here in Richmond, Virginia, we have a single family household that's at twice the national average, and so you're talking about in most circumstances that means mom. Okay, so you're with mom all day, or you're with mom in the household, and when schools are open, which schools are not open, but when schools are open, you're in the classroom environment with an overwhelming majority of these teachers as women. And so, when I bring up this phrase of toxic masculinity, no, it's a lack of positive masculinity and positive mentorship and that positive male role model in a kid's life, whether he's in elementary or middle or high school. It jumps off the page. You get a bunch of these guys who are running these programs down there and coaching these kids, whether or not they're Hall of Fame level baseball coaches is irrelevant. As long as they're a positive male role model for these kids, to teach kids, to be positive men when they grow up. The other piece,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I watch how entitled a lot of the better off families are. I'm not saying white, black, whatever, right? I'm just saying the families that are financially stable or even better than that. I watch the entitlement of the players, right? And then I watch how coaches handle these kids with kid gloves and how afraid they are to say something or reprimand them or teach them, whatever. Then I get up with Morris's group, and these kids are begging for somebody to be strong with them, and a male figure, like get in their face, hold them accountable, make them do certain things. So the world's it's black and white. So to your point, I can see the difference in the players up there that have a mom and dad together, which is not very many, right? Then, the dominant figure in that community that I see is the single mom who's working 2 jobs, who has the respect and the love of these kids, but just doesn't have the ability to control them on a hourly basis during the day, like a different situation would be, because they're out there working. They can't watch the kids. They're just trying to put food on the table and they give them clean clothes and a nice house. So they put them in the environment with Morris's group, the Carolina Metro Reds, and these mentors that are in there, and Sam Pittman and Ken Pulliam and Ron Davis and Morris Madden. I mean, these guys are tough on these kids, man. I'm almost to the point like, whoa, but they get it. But the kids get it, and the kids are, and they respond to it. It's amazing. But there's not enough. To your point, there's just, there's just not enough.
Hats off to to what you guys are doing down there. Give us the websites to everything again, and I'm going to make sure I get it on the on the show notes. But start with You Deserve a Chance, and run us right down the list.
Okay. You Deserve a Chance Foundation is udacf.org. Knothole Foundation's website is Knothole, KNOT, Carolinas.org.
Will you be hosting more travel ball events out there next summer? You think?
Oh, absolutely. We did it all year. We'll be creating leagues. It's just the programming right now our focus is on the capital raise, and we are doing some programming, like we did the HBCU program, and then we had the Morris's RBI League going on. So that, it's a program, but we'll be able to do more programming with assistance involved and not sustainability involved, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You have to continually do certain things so you can pay the grounds crew and you can pay the water bill and keep the lights on.
This is what people don't understand. You have to make some money so that you can do some good stuff.
You have to sustain.
Yeah.
Sustain. Now, and hopefully we continue. We'll start to build once we get the capital raise done and we have the lights up in the third field built and everything, the stands and the indoor all done. That we'll have some annuity money coming in, which means we'll we have signage and sponsorship and all that other stuff that'll give us capital just to go ahead and do the programming.
So listen, if anybody's listening to this thing and, either you personally or the company you work with wants to help out, I bet you can go straight to Knothole Carolina's website and find that donate button, or just pick up the phone and call Jeff. I gotta tip my hat to you again. I've had people who reached out to me because I always ask people before they come on, hey, what topics do you want to talk about? And I've had people who wanted to come on to talk about the shrinking diversity in the sport, and I go, but you run a huge travel ball organization and you aren't doing anything personally about this. And so I can't have you on to talk about a problem that you're not trying to fix. And so I just, it's I compliment you for recognizing there's an issue and kind of putting your money where your mouth is. And you've been doing this for a long time, starting with You Deserve a Chance and now with Knothole and the Tuckasegee Dream Field, and so it's impressive, and that's why I like having you on to share the story. So, thanks.
Well, I appreciate that, and I just always, when speaking about Knothole and RBI and UDACF, please mention Morris Madden too, because
Morris, we may have to get Morris on the line.
I listen. You would. He's not going to be as animated as I am, but he's going to come with the facts and just a great heart, great soul, and doing big things. So I appreciate you asking me to be on, Rich, and giving me a platform to kind of promote what we're doing, because this isn't about how many championships we won and how many tin cups and plastic rings and all that other stuff that they give out. This is about, listen, when I say I'm done with Youth Travel Showcase Baseball, nobody's going to know me or remember me. It's not going to matter.
Yeah.
But what it does is I'm having conversations this morning on the phone with one of the kids that is a UDACF recipient that had open heart surgery that ended up playing at Marymount for Frank Leone.
Love Frank.
And now he's part of he's going to be watching the election from the Republican Club. And he texted me this morning. I mean, that's, years ago. I got doctors, I got lawyers, I got, it's just some cool stuff, because in the end, I'm going to remember the kids, not if we won or lost or something like that. And I don't have to put that up on my website. And I don't have to promote everything. I'm happy for the kids that are going to college that we did that. But I know in the end, once they get through college, like, life begins. And I got guys at West Point, and we do have big leaguers, and it's so cool, and we all connect one way or another from time to time. It's amazing. So, my wins and losses are in lives, not in columns.
Mm. Hang on, I'm gonna stop the recording right there, but I want to just hang on 1 second. Thanks for coming on with me on here, man. That was great. Don't go anywhere.
No, thank you.